right. If you were not here yesterday, Martin, you were out yesterday too. Meredith got one. Evan got one. Anyone else not here yesterday? All right. If you were not here yesterday, I'll talk to you about the topics and all that kind of stuff here in a little bit. I want to go over the things that everyone got first so far as rubric and what that speech planner is and all of that kind of stuff here in a moment. I'm thinking probably like around maybe the last 10, 15 minutes or so, you'll have some time to kind of start looking at things so far as the direction you want to go with your topics, positions. I brought the laptops in. The cart is unlocked. I just wanted to hold off until you get them, until we go over the other stuff. If we have limited time, I would say the one thing then that most of us could do would be set up that Turnitin.com account just to make sure there aren't any issues. Like Becca, I know you were talking about email password issues. We can take a look at that at the end of the period. But the goal would be certainly by tomorrow. When I take a look at Turnitin, I got 24 students who are ready to go that can then submit article analysis at any point. The sheet itself, the assignment sheet, you don't have to do anything submitting that to me. The one thing when you do your submission for Monday, by Monday night, just make sure that works cited page gets attached to it. So I would think most of you are probably going to give me like a 3-page document, about a page and a half, page and 3/4 for the article analysis, and then that third page would be the works cited. You don't have to copy and paste the article in or anything like that. And I would think the majority of you would only have one source on your works cited page, that being the article that you're doing. There's no reason to do a Ben Franklin tension grabber quote or anything like that for article analysis. It's a pretty bare bones assignment that you're doing. And the other thing, especially since we'll have laptops out, remember whatever article you use for article analysis, that can go into Noodlebib as one of those 50 sources that get accumulated throughout the course of the year. So you could have an article about the wonders of Plato, and that would still be good enough to do for your Noodlebib. Anybody got any questions about that assignment from Monday? What are we doing here? Coffee maker like tripping the Christmas lights or something. That's my single from my coffee's ready. Sorry, Monica, I went brown mug today. But I might have an Oreo cookie with it. That would be good. Yeah, I held off yesterday.
Peeps picking off peep flavored Oreos.
Like the creams, the like the.
They're good.
I don't know.
I feel like it would be good to go.
I would try it. I'm not going to say it'd be bad. I'd try it. That'd be all right. All right. You got two things. You got this rubric, and then you also received a student planner. I made enough copies of the student planner that you could have two. And here's the reason for it. On Monday, March the 13th, so not this Monday coming up, but when we're going to start doing our speeches, everyone's going to give me two things. You're going to give me a copy of your speech planner, and you're going to give me a works cited page of the sources that are making it into your speech. So I'll have Meredith, Jake, Ryan, Aaron, speech planners coming up so that when they do their speeches, I can kind of follow along with what you're doing. Now, you're not tied into word for word what's on the speech planner because it's basically a summary of what you're doing, but it gives me a good sense as to what you are hoping to accomplish throughout the course of the speech. I gave you two copies of the speech planner in case you want to use one for yourself while you come up and give the speech. So if Ryan comes up to do his speech and goes, "Can I have my speech planner back?" I'm going to say no because I'm using it to follow along with what you're doing. So if you want to have two copies, that's fine. You don't want to use the speech planner, you want to do something else, type up an outline, use note cards, go off the top of your head, that's all up to you, but I at least want one copy of the speech planner. So if you feel like you do need a second copy, keep plenty of them over here on the sideboard, you can just go over and grab one if need be. All right. So works cited page is going to come to me, and a speech planner is going to come to me. So maybe if anything, down at the bottom of the page of your rubric, I'd at least try to make a little bit of a note just to remind yourself that that's what we're taking a look at. So the date for this, Monday, March 13th. Speech planner and work cited page. Caden, how long's your speech? 6 minutes. At most, like 6 minutes. Some of you might be a little bit less. But keep in mind, and your speech planner reflects this, and then with the rubric I tried to reflect this, you are going in chunks. So you're going to be speaking for 1 minute. Martin and I do a speech. Martin does his opening 1 minute. Then I come up and do my opening for 1 minute. He comes back, does his 3-minute body. I come back, do my 3-minute body argument. And then we do a little bit of closing down at the end of us having 2 minutes apiece. So yes, you're going to have 6 minutes of speaking time for that date that you end up going, but you're not doing a 6-minute block. It's getting segmented into those 3 sections. So that should at least make it a little bit easier to kind of follow along with. Clearly, this is the first main speech assignment that we've done, and you can see that that's kind of reflected in the point total out of 100 points. Your speech planner and the works cited page that you give to me on Monday the 13th, regardless of whatever day you end up presenting, that in itself is going to be 25 points, and then that speech will be a separate 100. So you can kind of look at it grand total as a 125 assignment that would be taking place. Next week, we'll determine the days that people are presenting. So whether Stephen's going on Monday the 13th or maybe even Monday, March the 20th, I still get that speech plan or works cited page from him all on that same day. And that way, like, everyone's speech is kind of due on the same time, even if it's not getting presented at the same day.
So we're having a separate works cited for this project?
You will get, for all the sources that you use for this project will still go into your main 50 source folder in NoodleBib, but you will give me an individual printed out works cited page, and I'll staple that together to your speech planner. So yes and no, sort of, in that regard. When you give me your works cited page, I'm not going to have your pop culture spar debate. I'm not going to have the article analysis source that you're doing, just the sources that are going to be going on here. I think Caden was already figuring out how many sources minimum do you need. Minimum is going to be 2. My guess is, I think at most are probably going to be sitting around 5 or so, but that's not a requirement that you have to hit a certain number beyond 2, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. Going with the introduction, you got a minute. So basically, the 2 main things that I'm taking a look at is that you have some type of attention grabber or interest catcher, and then you have your claim that's taking place. What are ways that people do attention grabbers or hooks? Like, what would be possibilities to try to get our interest in whatever issue you're taking a look at? And you can kind of think about the way that maybe folks do essays. Aaron, what do you think?
Ask a question.
Don't do that for Mr. Frank, Sarah. Don't ask a question as your attention grabber.
Fail.
Ryan, did you do a question as an attention grabber?
No,
Okay.
he told us.
Okay.
I listened.
Ooh, he despises that. Hopefully not you. Things will be okay. Aaron, you thinking like rhetorical question?
Like, I guess, yeah, one that just
You could do rhetorical question. I think you're probably going to be better off if you flip it into a statement. Where that idea that you present, because the issue that happens sometimes with rhetorical question, you got Frankenstein essay they're going to be working on or things like that. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to create a monster? No, I haven't. I have no reason to continue to listen at this point. You run that little bit of a risk. Now, I'm sure you would come up with a more thought-provoking question than that, but you do run the risk of, if they don't really care about the question that I present, do they kind of start to tune me out? If you put it in the statement form and kind of explain this is why it matters, you might be able to still kind of get some of their attention coming in. One thing that people certainly can do is, this is verbal, you're giving a speech. I know many of you are very good at telling stories. Stories or anecdotes are ways that you can try to get maybe people to relate to something. And it could be a personal story, a personal anecdote. Might be a story about something that you've read or that you've heard about. But it kind of personalizes things a little bit, so it might not quite come off as being too harsh. Some folks like to use eye-popping statistics, or facts. You can absolutely go with that route. Just make sure it's a meaningful statistic, or it's not something that gets really too confusing. If a person were to talk about, debt, finances, things like that, and you're giving us the number to the penny, we might forget what those first couple numbers were by the time you let us know something, 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 and 17 cents. But you can certainly still come up with some pretty significant eye-popping statistics that might tie in pretty closely to the argument that you're taking a look at. Some of you like to make allusions, and generally those allusions tend to be like famous quotes or passages. So, you're knee-deep in hell, love Dante, want to throw in some Dante to kind of grab our attention, that might work. Might not. But it might.
We're in
Probably not.
punishment right now.
Yeah.
We're over Dante.
Raskolnikov.
How do you say it?
Raskolnikov.
Oh, I just call him Ras.
That book is so thick.
I know.
I'm
And
on
the
page
words?
20 and I feel like I've been reading it for.
It's a Russian novel.
The prince of-
It's so tiny. And my book smells weird. It gives me a headache. Or I just said don't read
It's
it.
written as a story.
What a bunch of
though, so
crybabies.
I find it okay because it's written as a story, and it's actually like you can just follow the story.
So you follow the story. It's a
I
story.
mean, I like the story, just
Just immerse yourself in the details.
I'd say something, but then it gives the story away. So, you got a minute. You want to be able to set the scene for us a little bit with it. Try not to make a super long, dense quote that Nick feels is 30 pages long and he's only read like 3 words. So make sure it's going to be relatable to us and that we can kind of tie in. Now, this sounds silly to say, but the part, honestly, that people tend to ignore, I think, is their actual claim or statement. And people did a pretty good job of not doing this when it came to the SPAR debates. But make sure you let us know what your stance is, what you agree with, what you don't agree with the specific issue. Don't assume that we know exactly what your point is going to be. So clearly state your position. You'd be surprised how many people ignore or neglect that part. And when you get to the end of the speech, it'd be a good idea to reinforce your position so that we know exactly why you went through all these things that you did. When it gets to the body of your speech, a couple parts here that I want to just make sure you're kind of clear with. Certainly, you're going to be incorporating elements of logos logic, so statistics, testimony, stories, research studies. There could be other things that are going on in there as well. But within those 3 minutes, and this will be getting to the point that Kate was taking a look at, I do need you to reference at least 2 sources. And what that means, and some of you were doing this with your SPAR debates, where you might use a transitional phrase along the lines of according to, or in a study done by such and such, but you are introducing a source to us. You don't have to go make your statement and then go end quotation, parenthesis, Dixon, 74, end parenthesis, period. Don't tell us what your citation is or all that kind of stuff, but let us know at least what 2 of your sources are. So it could be something as simple as in a New York Times article from last April, in a Pew Research poll conducted in September, at a Stanford study that was done this past February. That's letting us know that you're taking a look at a specific source. And I need you to just make at least 2 of those references. So the minimum for your works cited page is 2 sources because you have to at least reference 2 of those sources. Jess might have 4 sources in her speech and she directly references 2 of them, she's good to go. But all 4 would then just be included, within your works cited page. So 2 of them you need to go. But if you have 7 sources on your works cited page, that doesn't mean you have to go according to in a study done, in an article written by, all those number of times. Certainly, if you are getting some key point across, some key fact, statistic, concept, idea, or what, then I would certainly mention these things. Because if you don't, chances are when rebuttal time comes around and that opponent has an opportunity to speak, he or she might try to minimize the effectiveness of your sources since you haven't mentioned them to us yet. So that's just something to kind of keep an eye on. Any questions about that part? So you're referencing at least 2, but you certainly don't have to limit yourself to 2. Your main argument is taken care of, hopefully, in these 3 minutes. You've already introduced it. You've gone into your topics. I would say that you folks are going to be looking at probably 2 to 3 main points. It's a speech. It's not an essay. So I don't want to say paragraphs, but if it were an essay, you're probably looking at like 2 to 3 body paragraphs. If you're going 4, 5, you probably don't have enough content development for those that they're really substantial enough, and you need to go into a little bit more detail about them. Or you're really going over time, and then I have to check it off. And remember, I'll be sitting in the back of the room, holding up note cards, letting you know as your time's starting to tick down, so there shouldn't be any surprise when you have a minute left, 30 seconds left, anything like that. Then you get to your rebuttal, and so certainly make sure this is where your counter argument is going to take place. You might be taking a look at flaws or logical fallacies that your opponent has used. You might have had a great idea and you're able to do further development of your topic. They said something, sparked an idea, wait a minute, I can go into more detail, and then boom, you're able to take care of that. And keep in mind, just like the spar debates, you can take paper up with you and write some ideas down. Some of you, during the spar debate, when your opponent was speaking, whole time you were writing stuff down. My opponent simply said, but here's where he or she is mistaken, or they misinformed you by stating, so you can certainly take any of that content, any of that information that they state. Caden was asking, can I use props yesterday at the end of class? You want to bring something up that's going to help further your argument? Absolutely. If you find some kind of chart or graph that you want projected up on the smartboard, we can do it. If you want a handout, we can take care of that. Every now and then someone will go, can I show a video? If you do, we're going to keep it pretty short and simple. And certainly if Aaron has a 45-second video, that's not counting towards the 6 minutes of your speech or anything like that. So no 6-minute videos from YouTube or Kendall, and then her going done, speech over. That was great.
What if I recorded?
Yourself?
Yeah.
Very good.
Ah,
Fire
stumped you.
bubbles.
Would you like sit down and we like zoom in on your face? Yeah. Would we do like one big face or like break it into like 9 separate Kendalls talking on like a tic-tac-toe board?
Have them like components.
Hey, we could. You're absent the day of your speech. I don't even. Who are you going against?
Lexi.
You're both absent day of your speech. We'll do FaceTime, Skype, whatever we need to set this thing up.
I'll do it.
Bunny slippers on. Got a bowl of Cookie Crisp.
I don't crisp, and I don't have.
I had Cookie Crisp this morning.
I have. Is that your bowl right there?
No, I had it at home. Yes, that is my bowl, but I had it at home. And then much like your introduction where you initially stated your claim, you want to make sure that you do restate your claim. Couple other little minor things here. Speaking techniques. I realize I skipped number 5, but I'll come back to it. Intensity, gestures, eye contact, vocal presentation. For the most part, people are pretty good with this stuff. The eye contact really shouldn't be much of a concern because you're not going to have a speech in front of you that you're reading line by line. You just have notes, so you're naturally going to talk to us. The vocal presentation, it's basically volume that we can hear you. If you have gum in your mouth, I'd probably suggest spitting it out. If you know that you're somebody who's going to go, I don't know, you know what I mean, certainly you want to try to limit those things as much as you can. You could record yourself for your 5-6 minutes, see how many times you say, like, however, and then when you do come up, you're aware of it. Yeah.
It does have.
Caden cut his hair, so I guess this would just be to the ladies out there. But those of you with longer hair, I do suggest buns, ponytails, things like that, because every now and then the whole finger will start getting stuck when the little twisting is going on, and people don't even realize they're doing it, but they'll get up here speaking and hands are just kind of going all over the place. So that might be something to keep an eye on. We all have something that we probably do, so it's a good way to try to keep an eye on those things. Intensity, gestures, again, same thing. You know, there's some interest level taking place on your part. Part of this speech is the use of eloquence that we simply were going over before. So I'm asking that you use at least 3 of those examples of eloquence. If you flip your speech planner over, there's even a section for the eloquence where you let me know what you are going to do in advance, and you can give me the example so that I'm looking for the imagery, I'm looking for the analogy, I'm looking for the alliteration. I don't care what 3 you use, but you have to make sure that they are unique. So you can't do 3 examples of alliteration and go, there's my 3 examples of eloquence. You need 3 unique or separate examples. You also need a mix of schemes and tropes. So assuming that you do 3 examples, it'll be 2 and 1 or 1 and 2. Again, I don't care. Remember, schemes is the syntax, arrangement of words. Tropes is more of that traditional figurative language, meaning of words. So the metaphor, the similes, that kind of stuff taking place. I wouldn't worry about that until the end, because as you start planning out your speech, you probably naturally do a lot of those things anyway. Alliteration, anaphora, parallel structure, simile, metaphor, allusions, those are all things that we naturally tend to do. If you're a person who, when we talked about the attention grabber, famous quote, this person we all know, what are you making? You're making an illusion. So, you know, you could naturally already knock that illusion out. One thing about if you do use a quote for an attention grabber, that does not count as one of your 2 sources. So if you do go Thomas Jefferson or something like that, Thomas Jefferson has nothing to do with the social media thing that we're looking at, you know, from an argument standpoint. I want it to be 2 sources that tie in directly to the argument that we're actually looking at, if that makes sense. Okay? Questions about the rubric? It's your copy. I'll have a separate one when you come up and give your speech, so you can feel free to mark it up, write on it, do whatever you want to it. It's your reference sheet. Speech planner, everyone has 1 right now. I'm going to get 1 from you. If you decide to go with 2, perfectly fine. Okay? Any questions? We've got enough time. Let's grab laptop and log on. You can get to Google Classroom, and then I'll give you an opportunity to talk to Ezra real quick and all those things. You're going to get to work. You're doing number 21. And Meredith, I'll stop by and get the quiz. You can just leave it there. Since you're going to go with first. Maybe 21. Martin. Jess, you were going against Martin, right?
Yeah.
Number 24. Jess, you went affirmative?
Yes.
So she went affirmative.
Good.
24 negative.
It's not saying 1 campaign and 1 candidate.
Yeah, I know.
So keep that in mind.
It's like,
Well, you people are quick. If only the computers would log on as quickly.
But if she uses the most famous example of that, I'm screwed. But hopefully she doesn't.
I want to show you a couple things on Google Classroom, and then whatever remaining time we have, hopefully you'll be able to kind of take care of to turn it in. Tomorrow when you come in, you're simply grabbing a laptop, if you want, and beginning your research. Now, a couple things again, and I say this every time we do a speech, so forgive me, because you're going to hear it again, you've already heard it. Not everything you do has to be coming from the computer. Not everything you do has to be coming from the internet. You have a brain on top of your head. It works. You can certainly come up with your own experiences and things of that nature, and your own reasoning. You don't need a source to verify every single idea. And we're looking at social media, mass media. We don't need media examples all coming from online. Certainly, you have enough experiences with a lot of these things, these ideas, these issues, that you don't have to have a website or a database supporting all of it. When you do get into Google Classroom, I bumped up the speech planner, but I just wanted you to know that there is a copy of it online, so it's there in the stream. Down where it says speech materials on the side, topics, in there I keep all the formal things that we're using. So the social mass media resolutions are there. The speech planner is there. I don't know if I attached the rubric yet. If I did not, I will do that later. It doesn't look like it's on there. But should you ever need a digital copy of those things, it certainly is present for you to take a look at. Under the common websites, the first one on there now is Turnitin. So there is the link to Turnitin, and there's also the attachment of the Word document for the directions that you already have over there. The important thing from that is the class code, and then the password to get into the class, just to make sure that that is working for you. But one thing that I did want to make sure you're aware of, and I don't know if it's loaded up for you quite yet, and if not, you'll be able to do this. The first thing at the top of the stream right now, it says the media 2016, because you used this in the fall as well. This is the list of topics that you got yesterday. So you already have this. However, if you do take a look, down here it says page 1 of 5. The document that is online is much lengthier than the one that I gave to you. The topic list is exactly the same, but as you scroll down, formatting gets a little funky, so technically 31 goes on to a second page. But starting on page 3, going to page 4, and going to page 5, you see a lot of blue, because those are hyperlinks. Not all of these, there's 59 in total, not all of these are going to be relevant or pertinent to what you're doing, but they are verified sources that would work with a lot of the topics that are on this list. So in addition to you looking at pro-con, iDebate, going to the library, checking out those passwords, by all means, you can go online, take a look at these. They're on Google Classroom. Since the hyperlinks are there, it should take you to the article without any issue. Again, some of it might work with the topic that you're looking at. Some of it might not work with the topic necessarily that you're looking at. But it would be a place that you could actually, start to maybe get some ideas coming from. I had to go to the dentist yesterday. Me and Sadie went, sitting in the waiting room for a little bit. 2 kids who I would say definitely elementary school. My guess would be 4th or 5th grade were sitting there talking, and they were talking about how many friends they have. Guess how many friends they have. Or how many friends they claim to have, because certainly didn't do research and background checks about all this stuff. But they were comparing friends. They wanted to see who had the higher number of friends. Guesses?
200 is the Facebook average.
The one girl claimed that she had 450. She said, I think I'll have 500 by the end of the year.
She went by like on social media.
Oh, she has to be. And the other one I think was saying like 3 something, was her number of friends. And I think it's coming from that social media certainly, and it's kind of a change from the way that I know I do. I'm thinking many of you kind of view what friendship is. Is it playing with the neighbors? Is it playing baseball during the summer? Is it someone who's going to help you out with homework? Or if you're having a tough time in life, or is it a person that you can play Connect for, through messages, who's sitting over in California? And so that terminology has certainly gone under a little bit of transition, probably because of social media. But I remember, like, we would talk about if you have more friends than fingers, they might not really be true friends, because are you really going to have 6, 7, 8, 9 people that you truly trust? But if you were talking to this 4th or 5th grader, it's not 5, it's 500. Those are the people. So those whole ideas of connections, relationships, that might be some things that could kind of work its way into some of the arguments depending on the topics that you have. Could you kind of consider how maybe some of that terminology has shifted over the course of the years? It's certainly a whole different ballgame than it was before. So you do have availability, access to these. Certainly the iDebate, ProCon, all that kind of stuff would be going on as well. Now, Caden and Steve, you guys are doing regular consumption? Or Caden, that's right, you got 2 SDs, and Sarah. When you start researching, you're not just going to go into Google and type in regular consumption of social media significantly improves communication and/or collaborative skills. Think about what your topics are. What are the points that you want to verify? That's the part that you really start to research. So if you just simply type in your resolution, you're not really thinking about it. You're hoping to get free answers. Think in your own mind, what would be your topics? What would be your ideas? What would be your support, reasons for and against? That's the stuff that you want to start to look at, because it really narrows down your search and makes it much more effective in that regard. So you have tomorrow, you have next week. The following Monday is when we start. Wednesday of next week is when we will hammer out dates and all that kind of stuff, so you know exactly when to prepare.
Was that 500 words?
Does that have to be only 500 words?
Article number 1, Monday.
Pass the water.
The minimum is 500 words. I don't think there's really a reason, Martin, that you would need to go beyond 2 pages. I mean, if you're start getting up into 750, 800, you're probably going a little too far, because keep in mind you're just analyzing their argument. You're not turning this into a DRQ or a synthesis where you're developing your own position for it.
Tyler, pass the 8th period, please.
8th period.
Yeah.